We're
Right.
speaking this morning to Rendra Zawawi. He's an award-winning music composer, songwriter, producer, and musician who is based in LA. Well, good morning, Rendra. Well, good evening to you there in the US.
Good morning to you. Good evening to me. Good still with morning, evening somewhere around the world.
Now let's
Good to see you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for agreeing for this little chat. Now,
My pleasure.
let's get to your love for music. When did it start?
My love for music. So I come from a family of musicians. My dad is an academic as well as a musician. He has written a lot of songs for, some very popular old timers back in the day. M. Nasir, Khadija Ibrahim, Amy Search. So I grew up in these surroundings while, these legends used to come to the house like it was like their second house or something. Just jam it out. And I'm like, oh, hi, and I'm just like listening to them playing. So I kind of grew up in the environment. And I think not long later, like I started picking up things from my dad as a songwriter. So that's sort of how we got into my bloodline.
Okay, your love of music. But at what age did you start writing your own music?
So it's a funny story. I would have to say at age 15, during PMR, Tingkatan Tiga, I think. So I was, at that point of time, my love for music is purely just as a consumer. And then I think 3 weeks before PMR, I was really frustrated with studying. And then my dad was just playing guitar one day, and I was just like, went up to my dad, it's like, hey, can you just teach me some chords? I was like, oh yeah, sure. So here's the D minor, A major, E minor or something, like 3 chords I remembered. And then, oh, cool, thanks. I was practicing. And the next day, instead of studying for my exam, I just went in my room and just started writing a song in 3 chords with full-blown lyrics. I remember I was in the phase of like the Beatles and the Bee Gees and all the oldie stuff. So my lyrics was very politicized in that way. And then I came with the next day with a song. I showed my dad, hey, I have a song called I'm Lost. I was like done 3 weeks before PMR. And so from that day onwards, I just had this knack of just like, oh, I can actually write songs. But I couldn't sing at all that time. Okay. My singing was super off pitch. I don't know why. And I practiced singing with the songs I made. That was kind of funny, actually.
Yeah, but the big question is though, how well did you do in PMR?
Alhamdulillah, straight A's.
Whoa! Right. I think it's the music writing that helped, right?
Yeah, I think so too. Yes.
Stressed for a while.
Yes.
But did you know from that age, like, that you wanted to be in the music industry?
I knew I wanted to be in my life in one way or another because my dad, he was a professor. He's a professor in anthropology first, and he's a musician second. He kind of dabbled in this duality of academic and entertainment, and that kind of like inspired me. Like, oh, you don't have to be a full-time musician, blah blah blah. So I actually knew it needed to be some form of life, but it wasn't at that point in time. Wasn't exactly sure that if I wanted to be a full-time. So I actually did civil engineering first. That was my first degree, and then music came later. It's a long-winded self-finding identity journey, but so I actually have a degree in civil engineering.
Did you use that degree? Did you work as a civil engineer at all?
I graduated, but I think my employees, my sponsors that time didn't trust me as much as I didn't trust myself to build a bridge for the public. So they did a good job in, you know what, we release you. So go.
And then you went to the US to study music.
Yes, it took me a few years to realize that that's what I wanted to do. Like in between, I was doing that was a good odd 3 years that I was, not practicing civil engineering / doing a community service to the public. And also I was dabbling in as a consultant in brand agencies. I was doing voiceovers. I was doing a lot of things. I was teaching Japanese. Sorry, I was teaching English in Japan as well at some point
Oh,
in my life.
oh, you speak Japanese.
No, the other way
I
around.
do I do survivable to be able to teach English. So yeah, I had a lot of things, and then after 3 years, I was like, you know what? And I had this opportunity to go to Berkeley, and at that point of time, you know what? I kind of owe it to myself to take it professionally. Maybe this is something that may interest me, and going to Berkeley kind of put things in perspective. That because all my life I've always been songwriting and singing. I've always been performing. I've always been in front of the stage. And I thought that was what I wanted to do. Post civil engineering studies, I thought that's what I want to do, like be a frontman. But once I went to Berkeley, I realized there was this other spectrum of music, which is being behind the scenes. And when I, took some classes, production, arranging, orchestrations, and all those, behind the scenes positions, I started falling in love with it. And the civil engineering degree actually played a purpose. Because that 3 years studying civil engineering, your mind begins to become like this whole, it's very logical, it's X versus Y, time versus blah, 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 and when I went to production, I started seeing things differently. And I think it was because through the lens of my civil engineering background, I was able to dissect music in a very structural manner, but yet maintain the sense of creativity. And I think it was the journey that was meant for me. If I didn't go to civil engineering, I don't think I would have picked this epiphany up when I went to Berkeley, and I would probably have wasted 4 years there.
So you couldn't. So you couldn't build an actual bridge, but you could write a bridge for a song.
No, that's why you're the DJ there, man.
He's the master punner.
Absolutely. Call it a musical bridge if you wanted to. I would rather write a bridge where people can sing along to rather than write along to.
I'm actually very intrigued about a songwriter's thought process. Like, do you have the melody first and then you write the lyrics to go with it, or is it the other way around?
It's an interesting question. And this kind of goes to the the concept of songwriting itself. Like, I think the more I'm in the industry, I learned that how people write song depends on their primary instrument. If you are playing an instrument like a saxophone or flute, something that's very mono sounding, you would tend to write a song from top to bottom. You want to write the song melody first, and then you figure out the rest of the layers. If you're a bassist, you would write the song from bottom to top, kind of thing, So that's as far as strong song structure goes. With the lyrics, it kind of depends. I usually come up with the melody first, because I'm a singer. I like to hum, da-da-dum, and then once I've hummed the specific melody, I would find words that fit into those melody. And the end result is you would get, a sort of like singable melody where it kind of makes sense. The other approach, which I've seen some people do, is, they write the lyrics first, and then you're able to hear that out in the music, because sometimes you can hear words. You could feel that the words are compressed specifically to fit that melody. It's sort of an art. But for me, it's melody and then lyrics.
Okay, but what if you have a lyricist working with you? Do you get the inspiration from their lyrics to write the melodies? Usually
I just take a tape run and just tape around their mouth and let them do my stuff. And I just open it. All right, your turn. It's an interesting process. Like, sometimes it can happen. I mean, depending on who you work with. I've worked with some really, really good people, including Z Avi, Yuna herself. Each of them have different processes. I can tell you that, for me, the best way is doing parallel. If you know the other person you're working with is also a songwriter, you could also build a song and lyrics with them. Because sometimes you're not gonna write words. As a lyricist who is a songwriter, you're not going to be just spewing out words that are just not singable. If you're a songwriter, you'd be singing the lyrics, not saying the lyrics. So in that sense, it makes it easier. I don't think I've had the experience of working with a pure, I don't know, lyricist who's probably a poet.
Yeah.
So I'll get back to you on that if I actually take his mouth or her mouth.
Well, is it different writing an English song versus a Malay song, in your opinion?
I think for me, both are equally approachable and doable. I don't have this. Some people I know, they write in English and they translate, or vice versa. I'm able to. I grew up with strong, learning Malay and stuff. My Malay is strong. My English is pretty strong. So I'm able to switch between both. So for me, I have no problem tackling, but it becomes a problem when when a client tells me, all right, I want this to be in English, and I'm totally 100% English. Like I do not. So when I write the lyrics, I don't foresee it becoming Malay. And it's suddenly towards the end, clients come back, oh, you know what? Our bigger boss wants it to have a Malay version. Like, oh, and that's really hard because translating other people's songs is actually easier for me than translating my own song. I've come to a few obstacles on that route.
Why is it? Why is that you can translate other people's song but not your own?
I think there's a sort of a conscious energy that's connected with you and your first baby. I think it has to do with attachment. Like because like I said, like for me, like when I write lyrics, I write the melody first, and then I write words that fits into that scope of melody. But when you translate to Malay, different number of words is a different ways of expression. You could express a word with 4 English words, and you have to replace with like 8 words in Malay.
Right.
So that kind of loses the impact. So I think it's a question of attachment.
Okay. Speaking about attachment, like out of the many, many songs that you've composed, do you have a favorite?
I do have a favorite. I'm gonna split this in two because I do have a songwriting background. I write songs, but I'm also a film composer, and so I do write like music for television and film. So on the song side, I think the one that I would have to put my hats down, the most memorable, would be Arena Cahaya with Z Avi. That was kind of like was a great song for a great film, Ola Bola. And working with Z has been nothing but phenomenal. She's a great artist. She's a great collaborator. I respect her a lot. We've been friends for a long time. And that song just brought us to 2 winning awards, which is the best song for the Malaysian Film Festival, as well as the Golden Horse Film Festival, which we sort of like marked history making to be the first Malaysians for that category to win.
Yeah. And
it was a Malay song and in a Chinese Oscars sort of thing, So that was like pretty amazing. For the television side of writing, so I do a lot of writing for television and films over here as well in Malaysia. Malaysia just did the M for Malaysia thing, but the first cue, we call it, so for music pieces that is for film and television, we didn't call it songs, we call it cues. So the first cue I wrote was for this guy that I was working for. His name is Mac Quayle. He's like my mentor. Been working for the past 5 years. So he works on really cool television series, and one of his television series that's under his belt is American Horror Story.
Oh,
and,
cool. All right.
And fortunately, when I was working with him, on that season, I said, all right, cool, let me put you on some cues, it can help me write some cues. And so my first ever thing that I wrote in that thing as an additional composer was this really horrifying cue. It was like a 1.5 minutes, very short, but it was a cue accompanying. And I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, as one of the seasons, I'm like, cool, this is going to be my first debut in a American TV network show. Like, cool, it'll be a story to tell down the road. Like, clowns having fun in the grocery store. Very, very organic.
Do you have to watch the scene first before you can
Yeah.
actually
Yeah. So you
get inspired for the cue?
yeah you watch the scene, you get inspired by the scenes. There's also like notes from producers or directors you're working with, or even the composer you're working with. So there's always different form of directions. But yeah, for as far as scoring, usually the visuals are your main source of inspiration.
Mm-hmm. But as a music composer and a songwriter, where do you get your inspiration from? Like, do you have to listen to a lot of music, different genres?
uh on a general basis, I would say no. That's just me. It's one of those things, like when this becomes your full bread and butter 24/7, like when you're free, what do? I watch reality TV shows for cooking. I like Hell's Kitchen, Gordon Ramsay stuff. Like that's my dig. But I don't exactly like consciously
Listen to more music, yeah.
like consciously look for music, unless sometimes I do, but not all the time. But when I do need to get inspired for a project or something, like for example, like I had this project recently, and and one of the clients, so they wanted a song, something in the scope of modern and dub, and then the conversation you have with the producers or the directors is more like, all right, can you give me some reference tracks? And they will give me, they throw me some ideas, and one of the main things was, they wanted this sort of grandiose thing, like American Got Talent, sort of, like very feel kind of thing, So I think one of the things I did was actually watch a few episodes of American Got Talent to sort of like get inspired, I mean, it doesn't necessarily communicate the technical terms of the music that is needed, but I think as long as I get the feel of what they want and get inspired from what they're saying, I think that sort of helps the energy flow towards the thing that needs to be built. So inspiration like that, and then they say like, oh, we want to make a, music like Michael Jackson's We Are the World kind of thing. Then I'll repeat that song for like a million times a day, if that's possible.
But what do you listen to most of the time? Are you a rock guy? Are you an electronica kind of person?
Man,
When do you usually?
I'm across the board, man. I'm one of those. I'm really across the board. I love orchestral music. I grew up with a lot of video game music, Japanese Final Fantasy, Nobuo Uematsu stuff. Very orchestral, very lush, and very like adventure. John Williams, of course. And then coming out here, with my previous mentor, Matt Quayle, he's more of an electronic kind of guy. So I got into that as well. So yeah, and then I love pop songs. The only thing I sort of like is really hard for me to sit down and listen to, it's not because I don't like it, it's because because I can't replicate it, is hip hop music. I admire skills of everything that goes into it, but I don't think I can do it for myself. So yeah, that, and I love jazz. Jazz is, I think, it really challenges my intellect. And I like that.
Now, speaking about like, referencing other songs and replicating things, are there any more original music nowadays? Like everyone's copying everyone. Can you come up, like, can a songwriter or composer still come up with something truly original?
I believe so. And the reason I say this is because I think it's all a matter of perspective. And I think because, we're heading towards a generation where, globalization is more advanced than ever, and so we're getting access to things that we never knew before. People from the States, people from Europe are listening to things from the Amazon, for example. So I think with this technology and this fast-paced exchange, I think there is more opportunity to be more original to the eyes of the world, because these days I think that's where the platform is. You can just you can write anything with your laptop in your bedroom, upload it, and have the world as a platform to check your music out. And when you're getting an audience that big, you know, the amount of possibilities of originality coming from your own roots is just monumental. And I think this is about going out and discovering, you know.
Yeah.
I think, originality can come from different layers of music, melody, the way you sing it, the instruments that you use, the sounds that you process, you modulate, the harmonies, the fusions. Oh my God! So it's endless.
Now, if a person wants to be a successful composer like yourself, must they be based overseas in the US?
First of all, it's good that I'm not a successful composer. I'm still learning, growing.
Don't be too humble. You have
I
an
think-
IMDb page, and Elvin Wee, whom we spoke to a couple of days ago, it says the mark of a successful person, composer, right, or
Yeah.
someone in the music industry is if they have an IMDb page that can scroll.
yeah.
And you have that.
I think I talked about this with him back in the day. It's like, oh, to make sure you want to look good, make sure you have a scrollable IMDb. You know when those mouse, those round thing,
Yeah.
just prim, and then just oh, okay, you made it.
Yeah. That's you, dude.
Thanks. But to your question, I think to be I want to use the word relevantly a composer that could make an impact or significant contribution. Like I said, I think it goes back to my whole perception of the world is becoming an oyster, like opening up to everybody. I think what do you call this? Wait, what's your question?
Globalization, wasn't it?
Wait, what's your okay?
Must a
how do you-
person be based overseas to be successful
Right,
as
right.
a songwriter? Yeah.
These days, I don't think so, because the information flow that you get, you can just get it from anywhere. Like, and I was sort of reflecting this a few years ago when I think a bunch of my friends from Berkeley were getting together. It's like, oh, look at this. This guy is putting up YouTube page for the skill, something that we paid $5,000 to learn in school. I mean, so it was like we started questioning, obviously coming from a music school, it gives you different benefits, more, one-to-one, and then you sort of have an alumni after that. So it's a different approach. But these days, information is so available anywhere. So I feel learning from anywhere parts of the world is accessible as long as you want to do it and you're just diligent as you keep at it. And then once you take it in, it's sort of like up to you how you want to process and churn it out to the world. And depending on those factors, how you receive, how you process, and how you churn it out, I think those 3 steps are essentially the 3 most important steps in the making of something really good.
And you can do it anywhere in
And
the
you can
world.
do it anywhere, in your bedroom, in your bathroom.
Yeah, but the kind of job opportunities that come your way, though, I mean, like you being in the US, you deal with a lot of different kinds of people in Hollywood. If you're here in KL, the most atas place would be like, hey, let's meet up in Bangsar, right? But there's like, let's meet up in like, I don't know, in Venice or something. It's different.
Yeah, it's a different environment, I think. There's definitely, I wouldn't say there's more opportunities. It's like a different level of opportunities here, but you also have to take into account, there's a lot of fishes here, there are probably 100,000 more people like me at my level and more, like looking for the next big thing over here. The competition here is so tight, it's so cutthroat, and it's all about how different you sound with the rest. So yes, you're right in the sense that if you do land that opportunity, it's amazing. It can take you to places, but to get that one small stingent of opportunity, it's just like the work you have to put in here,
Mm.
I would say is just, you got to be of a certain personality to sort of like be able to pull that through.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think that's sort of like the difference here. I mean, we all know the Hollywood opportunities are kind of like over the roof, over the top sometimes, and it's over the top for the reason because you put in a lot of work here, and even to be here is a lot of work.
But as a Malaysian in America, do you stand out more? Are there
Um,
advantages of being non-American, I guess?
I'm working on that. I think the danger of being here, like in just any industry at all over here, you tend to fall into this cookie cutter machine that you kind of want to sound like the next best thing,
Yeah.
Like Ludwig has won few Emmy Oscar awards for his score for the Black Panther, and suddenly everybody's trying to be him, and whoever wants the Emmys or Oscars, you kind of, oh, that's like the new thing. So I think everybody falls in that trap, and I think my advantage over here, in my opinion, is that I come and I'm strongly rooted in Malaysia. Actually, you know what? I actually have this mug here. It's diluted, but
Oh
it actually
yeah.
says this:
You're-
living in America with Malaysian roots.
Nice.
So
Where did you
if you
get that cup in America?
I actually got it here. Yeah, I just saw this ad on Instagram. It says, "Oh, it's one of those mugs where you put hot water and just like
yeah, yeah.
lights up." So it's
Ah.
like, oh, this like Instagram is like targeting the right audience. This is my alley. I was like, so I ordered this. So yeah, living in America with Malaysian roots, I think gives me that advantage of bringing out my identity to the world in Hollywood. And being in Hollywood also means like, I'm one foot in a door within the industry. And as I'm going along here, I'm finding it more important to sort of like have that unique voice. So I'm actually, like very intrigued in the sounds of Malaysia. And when I say sounds of Malaysia, not like what you hear commercialized.
Mm.
I want to bring out like instruments from the Orang Asli, like the villages of every state. They have their own indigenous instruments, and I kind of want to dig that. And I think those are my next steps that I want to sort of like portray in my music here.
Okay. That's great. Now, you've also dabbled in singing your own song as well. I read that you released your own EP a while ago. Is that something that you like to explore more of moving forward? Releasing your own album, maybe?
That EP thing, oh man, that was like donkey years ago. That was done in the period where before I realized that I wanted to do music behind the scenes. So that time I wanted to be this front man to releasing EP that it sort of worked out, but my realization to becoming a person behind the scenes kicked in, and I was like, you know what, I just dropped that whole route entirely. So since then I kind of stopped singing performing publicly or anywhere else. The only thing I do with my voice is sing for my demos. I don't have to hire a singer to sing the demo, so I kind of cut costs there.
But at no point will you ever explore that ever again.
I wouldn't say ever, but not anytime soon. Maybe, I don't know. It could change. I don't know. We'll see what this pandemic brings.
So, what's next for you, Rendra? What's in the books?
Officially or unofficially?
It depends on what you want to share. Which do you want to share with us?
Officially, and what's next for me? There's something interesting coming out in Malaysia, I think. No, it's not. I think it's definitely in Malaysia. Something's gonna come out this year. It's a song I did. It's a theme song for something something. It's gonna be cool. You'll see it soon. I can't see it yet.
Okay.
Okay, wait. Is it like
Is it a
film?
movie?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh no, okay. It's a theme song It's a theme song that's gonna be on TV, hopefully.
Okay.
It's not a film. It's something else. Is, I guess, call it promotion, whatever. But it's kind of a big deal to me. Something personal, and it was supposed to be a few months ago, but the pandemic happened. They had to push it back. So there's two things coming to Malaysia this year. So that's as far as what I know is going to happen. That's kind of cool coming up. The next big thing personally that I would like to happen is I'm kind of looking for the next big thing over in the US. I would love to have a feature film in the US or a television series where I'm the lead composer. That would be kind of cool. So that's like the next thing that I'm trying to aim.
Okay.
So any kind of feature film, it could be action drama, it could also be a docu-movie kind of thing.
Yeah. I think with my versatility, I sort of like I'm open to anything at this point, unless the whole feature film is drenched with hip hop
No,
references.
no,
Then maybe
no.
maybe I'll call Joe Flizzo or something.
Interesting, but we should talk, man. Okay, cool.
Now,
Yeah, definitely.
Do you come back to Malaysia often? Or not because of this pandemic, but on normal days, do you come back to Malaysia often?
I try to once a year. Now more, as in before the pandemic, because when I was working full time as a composer assistant for 5 years, it was kind of really hard to get off because of the hectic television schedules. But now I'm sort of fully freelance, and I'm able to actually work in the US as well in Malaysia. To have a studio back in Malaysia as well. So, and that's the beauty about my work. I could actually work in Malaysia or America, or if I had when I have a mobile rig, I can just travel anywhere around the world and just work from wherever. And I think that's sort of like the blessing in this whole behind the scenes writing, because technology is just getting more micro scale and it's just in your pocket.
So what, are you planning to move back here?
Not really, but my mom's gonna love you. No, not yet. Not. I mean, no plans in the near future. But I do. Once the pandemic's over, like I do foresee myself like going back. Like before, I used to go back once a year, but it used to be like a week or 2 weeks, and then I come back here. But now, it could be like I go back for a month or two. Enjoy bangsa or stuff. Oh man,
Nasi lemak.
Nasi lemak, yeah.
I miss that place, man.
Now, Rendra, any advice for up and coming Malaysian composers? What would you say to these young composers?
Don't be entitled. I think that's coming out the gate really strong for me, because I think I see a lot of people here as well, everywhere around the world, when they're coming out fresh from school or wherever, I think they have this thing where they just need to be fed with things that fits, that molds them, that fits for them, and I think for me, that entitlement feeling is something that you got to throw out of the gate in the first hand, because it's about the journey. It's about how you get there, this experience of up and down. And I think having this attitude of entitlement is just gonna make that journey even harder, and it's just gonna be really tough. So lose that entitlement, have grit, just keep at it. Don't complain. Just go with the punches, and something's gonna come out. Believe that everything that's happening to you is there for a reason. Don't play the victim card. Just gotta trust the process, trust the journey. It's gonna take you somewhere. In any field, industry, I promise you, that's gonna take you far.